Let's look at the overview of charts and visualizations in Excel. Charts and graphs are the basic visualizations in Excel, and these are visual presentations of data that help any analyst or a person reporting to convey information in a clear and concise manner. Charts and graphs are used to present data in a visually appealing and easily understandable format, allowing viewers to quickly grasp patterns, trends, relationships within data. For example, when you have data of different kinds, you find that you have many companies and you have data on their revenue, that is the amount of revenue that came into the company, how much is their earning or the net profit, and how many employees. When you have many companies, you will not be able to see which company is doing better on what. In here, we present such information in a bubble chart, whereby the bigger the bubble represents higher revenue. A higher performing company in terms of revenue is represented by the bigger bubble. Then you have number of employees on the horizontal axis, and that means that the more the bubble is pressed to the right, the higher the number of employees. Then we have profit, mean that the higher the vertical position of the bubble on the chart, the higher the profit of the company. That is a bubble chart. Then we also have a line graph, as we can see different sectors and across different years, and we have how the production values or the gross domestic product values of the different sectors were performing across the years from 2019 to 2022. Then we also look at the pie chart. A pie chart is really a darling of many, and it's what many people must have studied from early elementary school. A pie chart is useful for displaying the proportions or percentages of different categories within a whole. So we can see that here we have buildings, mortgage, construction, and real estate sector, 22%. Then social sector, 26%. Then agriculture is taking 1%. And then we have food and beverages. Let's be able to compress it and see what's telling us. So we have trade taking 22%. Home products taking 10%. Then we have agriculture taking 15%. Then building and mortgages taking 26%. So basically, a pie chart shows the different proportions of the respective categories that are represented within the chart. This is a bar chart, basically similar to a column chart. Whereas a bar chart has bars moving horizontally, a column chart has bars moving vertically, and both the bar chart and the column charts are used to compare data across the different categories. And these charts are suitable when you want to compare data and contrast values or magnitudes across distinct categories. Column and bar charts are typically used for visualizing how the different categories are performing, and we have column charts showing vertical comparisons, while column charts would be showing horizontal comparisons. Then we have a combo chart. A combo chart basically combines different types of charts into a single visualization, allowing for the presentation of multiple data series and their relationships. For example, we have here a graph that shows the sales volumes, both in amounts in terms of monetary values and also in the number of sales made. So we can see that the monetary values are represented by columns, while the number of sales made by the company across the different years are showed by a line chart. Then finally, we have another very important visualization in the name of a box plot. A box plot is one of the very important but not well utilized visualizations in Excel. A box plot basically tells us about the skewness, the spread, the central tendency of a distribution. So you have a data set, for example, performance of students in class across different subjects, where you have a box per different subject. You can also use a box plot to analyze, for example, loan performance for the different products. You can analyze a box plot for different income for households or for the population across the different sectors of the economy. and you would want to see how incomes are distributed, how the grades are distributed. The key highlights of a box plot is that it shows the interquartile range, it shows the first quartile, the third quartile, it shows the median, and it shows the maximum, it shows the minimum, and also shows where there are outliers. And the box plot helps us to tell the central tendency of a distribution, whereby the median is the line within the box at the center of the box, which is the central tendency or the middle value of the dataset. And mean by default, in Excel, the box plot does not tell by default the mean of a distribution. However, as we shall see later, there is a check mark where the analyst can request that Excel includes mean manually in a box plot, and we shall be seeing that in terms of this star that is just around the median of a distribution. A box plot can also assess a spread, whereby we have the upper bound of a box being the third quartile, then the lower bound being the first quartile, and the sides of the box basically representing the interquartile range. Now, the position of the star, which represents the mean, relative to the line which represents the median, actually tells us about the central tendency of the distribution. Then we have whiskers. Whiskers are the horizontal lines at the bottom of the elongated line at both ends of the box. The upper one represents the maximum score and the lower one represents the minimum score. And in the event that a dataset has outliers, then we would be seeing outliers that lie outside the both ends of the whiskers. And any data points beyond the whiskers are considered outliers and can be displayed as individual points or data markers. Basically, outliers, like we can see, especially at the bottom of these distributions, these indicate extreme values that lie outside the typical range, and depending on what kind of data it is, then these could be mistakes or it could actually represent problem cases. If it is performance of a class, then it would probably imply that those students have specific and unique problems that need to be taken into consideration. Then a box plot also tells us about skewness and symmetry of a distribution. A symmetrical box plot with the median line in the center suggests a balanced distribution without significant skewness. For skewed distributions, if we have the median not centered and the box plot appears elongated towards one side, it indicates that there is skewness in the dataset. Positive skewness, which is a right skew, means that the tail of the distribution extends towards the higher values, while negative skewness means that the tail extends towards the lower values. By examining the elements of the box plot, including the median, the quartiles, the whisker, and outliers, an analyst can gain insight into central tendency, spread, and skewness of any data. So it is important that in any Excel enthusiast, and indeed any data analyst enthusiast, needs to really get used and acclimatize themselves to analysis using a box plot, as it really speaks a lot about the distribution of a data or a group of data, and this helps in understanding the kind of data that person is dealing with, or the kind of population or sample that is represented within a given data set. So this is briefly the overview of our charts. There are so many other charts in Excel, as we can see, but we have just looked at the most important ones. We have columns, lines, pie charts, bar charts, area charts, scatter charts. It's where we have picked our bubble chart. Then we have box and whisker, we have a combo, and basically we are going to look into detail of how each of these charts can be constructed and the most suitable data sets that can be represented using each of these visualization charts. In this short lesson, we look at the suitability of different charts and how they fit different types of data. We start with our bubble chart. A bubble chart is useful for displaying three-dimensional data where the size of the bubble represents a third variable and the rest of the axes represent the two variables. For example, in this chart, we see the size. We have top companies by revenue, net profit, and number of employees. So we have profit on the vertical axis, employees on the horizontal axis, and then the revenue of the respective companies represented by bubble size. So that is basically the importance of a bubble chart, and it is one of the few charts that can actually represent data on more than 2 dimensions. Let's now look at the suitability of a line graph. The line graph is suitable for demonstrating trends over time or continuous data. For example, we can see in this line graph of ours, we have a line graph for each of the different sectors of the economy, and then for each of the sectors, we have a line that shows a trend from 2019 up to 2020. Wherever you have a data where you tend to demonstrate trends over time or continuous data, then you'll most likely find that a line graph is the most effective for displaying that kind of data and for visualizing that kind of data. Enter the bar chart, which may also be a column chart with bars running vertical rather than horizontal. A column or bar chart is suitable for comparing data across different categories. As we can see that we have different universities and we want to visualize the size of the endowment funds, and a bar chart is a suitable one for showing this kind of data. In some cases, a bar or column graph can actually be used to compare multiple categories, whereby you find that, for example, for the respective universities, you find that not only are you showing the endowment fund, but you can also have an additional bar for each university that shows another parameter like annual revenue or the number of students graduating per year. So whenever you want to compare data across different categories, most likely you are going to need a bar chart or a column graph. A combo chart, as we said, combines 2 types of graphs. In this case, we have a column chart and we also have a line graph being combined. And a combo chart combines different types into a single visualization, allowing for presentation of multiple data series and their relationship. In most of the cases, you will find that in the vertical axes of a combo chart are split between the primary, which is normally on the left, and then the secondary axis, which is on the right. So whenever, as an analyst or while reporting, you would want to combine different data series into a single visualization, then a combo chart will come in. And finally, a box plot, like we have said, its importance cannot be overemphasized. A box plot can be used to plot or analyze skewness, central tendency, and spread of data. Like we said, you want to see a distribution, how skewed the data is, how skewed performance is, how spread, or how the performance or distribution of a given data set conforms to central tendency. Then you can be able to visualize that using a box plot. So these are some of the common charts that you are likely to interface with in Excel, although they are not the only ones, but these are the most common that you're likely to be using, and that is how you can determine suitability for each of the types of graphs for the different data types. Let's look at the overview of key chart attributes. We shall demonstrate the key chart attributes, which include the data series, the axes, the titles, the legends, the data labels, how data is selected, modification of axes, the plot area and its formatting, chart area and its formatting. Then we see lines and field colors, and then chart design, and then number formats for charts, among others. Now, for us to be able to demonstrate these attributes, let's use an example of a pie chart. So we have our data. Let's select our data. Then we go to the Insert tab on the ribbon. Then we click on the chart group. Then we go to all charts and we select a pie chart and we press OK. Now we have different types of charts. Now let's start with a legend. A legend basically is what we know as the key that shows the different items of our pie chart. So this legend has different attributes. For us to be able to see those attributes, we can do any of the following. One, we can actually click on the legend, and then we right click and we click format legend, and we will open the chart formatting pane. Another alternative for activating the chart formatting pane is clicking anywhere in the chart, and then we shall have our chart design tab on the ribbon. Take note that when you click outside the chart, that tab on the ribbon disappears, but when you click in the chart, then the chart design appears. When you click there, there is something called add chart elements, and among them we have legend, and is asking us where we need to place our legends, whether on top, whether to the right, or you don't need the legend at all, or you need it to the left or to the bottom. So you can do that, or you right click, format legend, and you go to the pane and you indicate where you want it. So for now, let's place it on the right. Now that is the legend. The other issue is the title. There are different things you can do with the title. One, you can actually type in the title and you say GDP by sector. And then you can have that, or you can actually come and highlight the chart title and then press delete, and you will have your chart without a title, and the title can be put outside the chart. The other alternative to have a title is click anywhere in the chart and then go to chart design, add chart element, then chart title, and then you can choose where to put the title, either above the chart or centered overlay, and then more other title options. That is as far as the title is concerned. Let's now look at how you can format data series. Data series are basically the different components of the chart, whether it is a line chart or a pie chart. Now, when you click anywhere on the chart, it will activate the different series of our chart. Then on the chart formatting pane, we can see it is giving us proposals for formatting data series. One is that we can actually go and put a no line as a border. As you can see that our chart has a border, which we can choose to put a solid line or to put no line. And we can even choose the color of our border. For example, we can say let's have a red border, and we can even choose to expand the width of our border, and we have our borders for the different pies having very bolded borders. In addition, while having our chart selected, we can click anywhere and we have any of the pies highlighted. Now, for example, when we click outside the chart and come back and click anywhere on the boundary of the pie chart, then we see all our pies highlighted. If we want, for example, to change a color for any of the pies, we go to a specific pie and click on it. So, for example, if we want to change the color from blue, we go to the format data point and we go to this bucket that has paint. It represents fill and line. Now we had seen how we change the border. Now we see how the color of the pie can be changed. So from automatic, we can go to a pattern fill, and a pattern fill, we can choose which color to use. We can say let's use the color green, and then we choose which pattern to use. We can actually have our pies represented not by a solid fill but by a pattern fill. Or alternatively, we can go and instead of using a pattern, we can actually use a solid fill. Then we come and choose any of the colors that we feel is suitable. So for now, I'm going to leave in a pattern fill based on this greenish color. And all these attributes we are looking at are almost the same, irrespective of the different type of chart that we are interested in. So for now, I'm going to move to show how the plot area and the chart area can be changed. Now, when we click on our chart, what is highlighted now is called the chart area. And if we would want to change the background of a chart area, while we have that chart area highlighted, we can still come to our chart format pane and we go to this bucket of paint for fill and line, and then give a background, and we can come and choose which background we are interested in. We can choose this blue line. However, maybe we don't need it bold, and we can change the transparency of our chart area. Please note that in addition to chart area, there is a smaller box inside the chart area, which is the plot area. And in this plot area, you can actually come and input a different color, again with the plot area highlighted. As we can see here, there are plot area options, but when we click outside the plot area, then we have chart options. So when we highlight the plot area, we can still come and give it a color, can give it a solid fill, and we can have any color like orange, and we can also try to have it less transparent. That is as far as some of the attributes are concerned. Then let's quickly look at data labels. As we can see, our pie chart does not show any numbers. Other than seeing the respective sizes of each of the pies, we are not able to tell what percentage of the entire economy each sector represents. And for us to be able to do that, we can include data labels in our chart. Two ways of adding data labels. One is you can right click and add data labels, or we can actually highlight our chart area, go to the chart design, add chart elements, and we go to data labels. We can indicate how to put the data labels. We are seeing outside end, best fit, inside end, center, or we can put a call out whereby we have these data labels outside but with a corner that highlights the pie to which each of the data labels relate. So for now, let's put them outside. And then when we have our data labels, we can come and click on any of the data labels. When we click the first time, we shall have all our data labels highlighted. If we click on any of them the second time, then we shall have only that one highlighted. There's a lot that we can actually do. One, we can actually change the number format, including decimals or not decimal, by putting a separator or removing a separator, 1000 separator. And let's click outside the data labels and then back to the data labels. When we go to the label options, then under label options, again we go to label options. We see that there are values, but we can also indicate percentage. So in addition to each of the absolute figures of GDP for each of the sectors, we can also show the respective percentages for each of the sectors. That is as far as data labels are concerned. And you can also give the data labels their own background if it is necessary by coming again with the data labels highlighted. Make sure that all of them are highlighted if you intend to make changes on all of them. So you have them highlighted and you go to the fill and line, and then you can give it a fill background, solid fill, and then come and choose the color of interest. And you can also give them a border. As you can see, there's no border. We can actually come back to our paint bucket and now move down to border and still put a solid line. And then we can choose to put a blue border around our data labels. So all these are the respective attributes that one needs to change. Finally, for any chart that we have constructed, depending on the suitability of data, we can actually convert that chart from one type to another. For example, I will copy our pie chart and paste it in a separate location to have a copy of the pie chart. And then I'll come and highlight the entire chart. And then I right click. And then I click on change chart type. And now instead of a pie chart, I can go and make a column chart. And I have choices of which column charts I can make. So I can actually have a column chart like this. I can have a column chart. Like this, that shows the different components of our economy. Or I can actually have my chart differently. I create another copy of my pie chart, and then I come and right click and I change chart type, and I come to the column and I come and create a column chart like this, and I press OK. Right click, change chart type, column, click here, come and click this type option, and I click OK, and I will have a column chart. Now, when I have a column chart, there are additional things I can do. When I go to my chart design, I can come to add chart element. I can come and add axis titles. I can add the horizontal one. While the axis title box is highlighted, I come and type in sectors, press enter. I can come and bold, and I can even increase the font size. Likewise, I can come and go to the chart design, add chart element, axis titles, and I can add the vertical axis title, and I call it GDP brackets US dollar million. I close brackets, I press enter. I can come to the home tab, I bold, and I even change the font to 13. I can give my chart a title by going to the chart design, add chart element, then I say chart title, and I put above chart, and I call it GDP by sector. GDP by sector. I can come, bold, highlight the entire title, click on the side, bold, and then put any font of choice. Likewise, you can put a background color to the title, you can change the font color, and many other things that can be done on a chart. So basically, that is the summary of the key attributes of charts and graphs. And once you grasp how to change these attributes, you will most likely have known a very big part of the knowledge that you need to create charts in Excel. Having described what the respective charts mean and what dataset is suitable for the respective charts, we now start constructing our charts. Let's start with a bubble chart. This is our data of the top 5 companies at 2022 as published by Fortune. The top performing companies, we have their parameters starting with the total revenue, the profits, $1 million, and the number of employees, and also indicating whether they are state-owned or private. For now, we are going to ignore the ownership, and we construct a bubble chart that actually represents the 3 major parameters of revenue, profit, and number of employees. And this is how we shall do it. We highlight the data, we go to the insert tab on the ribbon and go to the chart group, click the drop down, we go to all charts, and then under the scatter group we have bubble and then 3D bubble. Let's use 3D bubble, and we click OK. There are a number of things that we need to do on our chart. First of all, we are having all bubbles having the same color, and we can change that by giving different colors to different bubbles. Notice that when you come and click the bubbles, then you right click and format data series. Then under the format data series and series options, we go to our fill and line, and then as we can see that the fill is automatic, but we want to vary colors by point, so we have to check this option of vary colors by point, and we can go and change any of the charts that we need depending on what we prefer. Before we go deeper into changing the colors, one, we can see that our bubbles are not fitting very well in the chart. They are in one extreme rather than in the center. One thing that we shall go and do is we shall click on the x-axis with an intention of extending our bubbles to the left, because we have a lot of space to the left of the bubbles. So what do? We click the axis, we right click and click on format axis, and then we have bounds 0 to 700,000. Instead of 0 to 700,000, we can actually put 300,000. No, before we go into that, let's first of all see how our bubble fit the data. One thing that we would want to do is we would want the USD millions to represent the size of the bubble, and then we would want the profit to be shown on the vertical axis, which is the y-axis, and then the number of employees on the x-axis, the horizontal axis, which represents the x-axis. So let's quickly click on the bubble, right click, we go to select data, then on the series we click edit, and then for now the series name we first leave it blank. Then we come and click on the x values. X values, we said number of employees is our x values of interest, is what we want to represent on the horizontal axis. Series for y values is profit. I need to be sure. Then size of the bubble, we click and highlight the revenue in US dollars, and we press OK. OK. Now we can see that our bubbles have changed because of realigning the respective vertical and horizontal axis. So now we probably may not even need to tamper with the axis, but let's just reduce, because we see that most of our data points in terms of number, but we need to be very sure whether these are number of employees. Let's go back and check what represents our x-axis. We click, select data, and then go to the series edit, and our x-axis is E, which I think is okay. So, but let's now align the axis. We can see that the employees, the lowest is more than 250,000 and the highest is less than 2.7 million. So we can come and put the minimum and maximum numbers for our axis to be that. So we format axis, we right click on the axis, format axis, and then for bounds, we put the minimum, instead of 0, we put it at 250,000, and then our maximum, we put it at 2.65. Now, the next thing we are going to do is to put the data labels. As we can see, our bubbles are not telling us anything in terms of which is for which company and what does it represent. So for now, we shall come and click on one single bubble and we shall see all the bubbles highlighted. What we shall do then is to right click and go to add data labels. Now, these data labels now, we do not know what they represent. So we need to go and format the data labels. Let's click on the data labels. Immediately we do that, we shall see our chart format pane having label options open. And then we shall go to label options, and then we say that we want to, first of all, we have to indicate whether we need the Y value, or whether we need the next value, or we need the series name. For now, we can put the size of the bubble, and the size of the bubble is basically here, and then remove the X. And then we also say, let the label contain value from sales. So we click on value from sales, and we go on to highlight which value from sales. And then we come and highlight our company names: Walmart, Amazon, State Grid Corporation of China, China National Petroleum Corporation, and China Petrochemical Corporation. And we click, press OK. Now we have the names, and then the revenue of each of the companies. Having achieved that, now let's tell Excel where our labels should be positioned. For the sake of these bubbles that are close to each other, we are going to put the labels on top. So we click and right click, format data series. We intend to go to data labels instead. So let's look for data labels. How do we go there? We come back, we click outside, format data labels. And then we say, let's put above. So above doesn't seem to work well. Label options, let's put to the right. Now let's lift one by one for these that are very close. We get this, the first one for China Corporation, we put it on top. The one for State Grid, we put it at the bottom. And then we can have this one also close by, and then the rest, since they are visible, we can leave them. One thing we can do is that we can come and bold the labels. We can remove the grid lines. We click on the grid lines, then we press delete. Or alternatively, we just come to chart design, add chart element, and we go to grid lines, and then we say for primary horizontal, we remove them. We can come back and also go to grid lines, and the primary vertical, we also remove them. And this is what we have as our chart. What is remaining is to now get any of these bubbles, for example, this China Petrochemical, and we go and change its fill, and we fill it with a pattern. And that pattern, we can put it color as the blue, and then we can choose this horizontal pattern. And then we can go ahead and remove the title, and then we can come and put a color. We highlight, we right click, then we say plot area. So let's go to chart options, plot area, and then we go and change the background solid, no, not border, sorry, no line for border. And then for fill, we put a solid, and then we can put any color of choice. That is for the plot area. We can also do something similar for the chart area. So we can see chart options highlighted when we highlight the chart area, and then instead of blank white, we can actually put some color. Transparency we can reduce, and then we shall have our bubble chart. We can come and highlight the axis. We go to the home tab and bold. Again, we come horizontal axis, we go to the home tab and then bold. But we can indicate what these represent by putting axes. We go to chart design, add elements, axis titles. We first put horizontal, and horizontal is employees, employee numbers, enter. We can bold that. We come and do something similar. Chart design, add chart element, chart title, axis titles, vertical, and then we come and we click in the formula bar. We have the axis title highlighted. We come in the formula bar, and then we type profit, brackets, US dollar million, close brackets, enter. And then we come home tab and we make it bold. I think for now we have done some justice to our bubble chart. Let's unbold the data labels. But what we can do, we can give them some slight background. While they are highlighted, we go to the fill and line, and we put a solid line. Behind them, we put some color. and this color need not be shouting, so we can reduce the transparency like this, and then we shall have our bubble chart indicating that Amazon won by virtue of being at the highest vertical point, then it has the highest profit, followed by Walmart, followed by China National Petroleum. But whereas we are not able to tell the relative size of the bubble because the bubbles are almost the same size, but we can see that the biggest is Walmart, which has a revenue of $572 million, and then followed by Amazon based on the size of the bubbles. And then number of employees, Walmart is the highest because the bubble is the farthest to the right, and China Petrochemical Corporation has the lowest number of employees among the top 5 companies. So that's how we can be able to use the bubble chart to give us a 3-dimensional view of the performance of different categories, companies, or sections of a company. Let's look at how we can construct the combo box to show the performance across the years of a company in terms of the monetary value of sales and also the total number of sales made from the year 2014 to the year 2021. We quickly select the data, go to the Insert tab, click on the charts group, all charts, and look for the combo. Now, when we click on the combo, what we see here is that we have series 1 and series 2. Let's first click OK. We have not been able to know which of these are which series. So we right click again on the chart and we select change chart type, and then series 1, it is currently a clustered column. Series 2, instead of it being a clustered column, let's make it a line, and let's indicate that we need to put it on the x-axis, and we press OK. For now, we have additional series. I think the other series is actually the years, which we need to remove from the series, and we put them as the horizontal axis. So let's come and right click in the chart. Again, we go to select data, and then we need to remove. Now we can see series 1. When we edit it, it is B. Now this B, we need to remove it. So we say remove. And then we go to series 2, edit. It is C. And the series name, we click on the name. And we come and click on sales. Press OK. And then series 3, we edit again. And we go to series name, number of sales. And we click OK. Then when we go to the horizontal axis, we click edit, and then the range that we need on the horizontal axis is the years, and then we press OK. Now we go back to edit our chart in such a way that the number of sales remains a line, but the sales in millions of dollars, we make it as a column. So we click on that, and then we say series chart type. And instead of the cells being a line, we have it as a column, and then we press OK. And then we can come and change the color of our line by changing it from gray to a blue. And then we can input data labels if we want, but we don't need to. Then we can remove the grid lines, click them, highlight them, and press delete. We can put our legend to the right by clicking format legend, and then we put it to the right. And then we come and extend our plot area, and we can put the title of the x-axis by going to chart design, and we put axis titles, and we put primary horizontal. We type years, press enter. Let's expand our chart and then reduce the plot area to create space for the years, and then we can lift the axis title. Then on the left where we have profits, we can come and also add chart element, and we put axis title, primary vertical, we come and go to Formula tab and we type sales in US dollar million. We close and press enter. We can bold whatever we bold. We can put a title or remove it. And then this is the plot area. We come to the chart area and we go to the fill and we say solid fill, and we can put some gentle color, probably this light blue. And we can bold the axis titles, and then we can extend the plot area a bit to the right. We can reduce the size of the plot area a bit for us to create room for our legends. And that is it. So we have quickly constructed our combo, and we can align these ears properly for them to be viewed properly by pointing them vertically instead of horizontal. And this we do by going to the axis titles and we go to axis options. Instead of axis options, we go to size and properties, and on the text direction we tilt at 270 degrees, and this will be our ears. 170 degrees, can put at 90 degrees. I think 270 is better. That's how we can quickly draw or construct a combo chart. We can quickly construct a line graph. Let's select our data from the sector up to the last year. Let's avoid including the totals. We go to the Insert tab, click on the chart group, expand, go to all charts, line, can have a line graph, we press OK. We have our data. We need the years on the horizontal axis. Let's come and click anywhere in the chart, right click, select data. How do we bring the years to the horizontal axis? Let's go to the legend. First of all, let's first switch, and we have our sectors to the legend entries, and then we can construct the horizontal axis. So let's click switch row column. And then once we have been able to do that, then we come and edit on horizontal axis. Now the axis label range is from 2019 to 2022, and we press OK, OK, OK. Now let's quickly remove the legend from the bottom and send it to the right, format legend, and we send it to the right. After doing that, we can do some expansion of our chart. And then we shall come and remove the grid lines, highlight them, delete, and then we can do whatever we want to do. We can bold the axis. We can come and put a title on the vertical axis, and we call it production or GDP in US dollar million. Enter. Can have it bolded. We can remove the chart title, and then we can give a background to our chart area by clicking on the chart options and going to our fill and putting a solid fill. And that is precisely how we can construct a line graph. We can quickly see how to format our lines by putting markers, by changing the compound type and the width of the line. So when we click on any of our lines of our choice, for example, community, social, and other services, we highlight it and we go to fill and color. And then first of all, we can put a marker options. We can put inbuild, we can put a cross or a star. You can see we now have markers. Let's change from that to maybe a triangle, and then we can increase its size, and then we can close the markers and we go to the line and we put a solid line instead of automatic. We put the color of choice. We can put a thick blue color, and then we can increase the width of the line. We can put it as a dash rather than as a full block line. and we can change any of the others. We can have that, instead of having it as blue, we can have it as deep red, and then we can even have it as a double line, and we can also have it as a dash. So basically we can have changes to any of the lines that we shall have constructed. Let us now look at another important chart called box plot. A box plot is a chart that helps identify the distribution of data, and it helps to look at how numerical data is distributed and also being able to compare multiple data sets. For example, we have a data set before us here. This data set represents the performance of students across different subjects. We have math score, then we have reading score, and then we have writing score. Now, when you have a data like this, it is very hard for you to be able to assess how students have generally performed across these different subjects. Now, because you have each individual student performing differently across the different subjects, but you would want to see which subject has been fairly done, which one has been done better, which one have students failing, and one of the best ways of analyzing that data is visualizing it using a box plot. Now, let's select the data. For us to be able to construct a box plot, we select the data for our student performance, and we go to the Insert tab on our ribbon, and then we select the under charts. We go to expand and look at all the charts, and we look for what we call the box and whisker. Then we press OK, and now this is our box. Now let's look at how we can actually create parameters. First of all, what this box means and how the visualization can be improved. One thing that we need to note about a box plot is that the highest point that we see on the box represents the maximum, then the lowest point represents the minimum, and then we have a star that we see in the middle, and then a line in the middle. Now, for those who know some statistics, they know that there's a difference between a median and then the mean. Now, the X mark represents the mean, while the middle line represents the median. Then the bottom of the box represents the first quartile, while the top of the box represents the third quartile. Now, let's now look at how this data can be interpreted. Having constructed our box plot, let us now look at how we can improve how the box plot looks. The first thing is that when you are drawing a box plot, you have to determine whether computation of the quartiles includes the mean or excludes the mean. So how do we do that? When you come and select a box plot, and then you select format data series, and then you come and indicate whether it includes or excludes the median, whether the computation of the quartile calculation includes the median or does not include the median. So let's exclude the median. Then you can also indicate whether the box should show min markers. So when you unselect the min markers for selected plot, it will actually remain the X. When you go back and go to format data series and you show min markers, then it will retain the marker for the mean. Now, one of the frustrations of a box plot is that you have to do each of the box plots independently. You can come and also change the color of the box plot for any of the box plots by clicking on the box plot and then going on the paint bucket, and then under the fill, then you select which color you would want to represent that box. However, how the box stands now, we do not know which box represents which subject. So we can select our chart and then we go on the tab. When our chart is selected, when you go to the ribbon tab, then there is a chart design, and then there is chart elements, and then under chart elements we have legend, and we can put a legend at the bottom. So bottom indicates to us what each of the boxes represent. We can delete the title if we don't need it, or we can actually type in the title and say class performance for different subjects. And then we can also have our title board. Now let's remove the axis. We delete the axis, and now we can go and make interpretation of what our boxes mean. But before that, let's do two things. One, let's adjust the axis. One is that we can choose to have our axis begin at maybe 15 rather than 0. And then we shall have our maximum number as 100 as opposed to 120, because we know that the marking of subjects tends to stop at 100. So now let's see how to do that. How to adjust the maximum and minimum of the axis, and then also how to include the markers on our box plot. Now, when we select the horizontal axis, then we can come and format the axis, and then under format axis we have the fill and line, we have effects, and then we have axis options. We go to axis options, and axis options we have number, and then we have axis options, we have minimum. Instead of 0, let's put 15, and the maximum, let's put 100, because there could be people who actually scored 100. So we can see that our minimum of the axis has changed from 0 to 15, and then our maximum is at 100. Now let's also see how to include data labels. Now we are seeing the third quartile at the bottom of the box, the median at the middle, the third quartile at the top of the box, and the minimum and maximum, but they are not labeled. So we can choose to, first of all, remove the grid lines. Then we come instead and highlight the box, and then we right click, and then we have add data labels. Let's try to change the font color of our data labels and see whether we are able to view them properly. Let's for now use the color red. Let's input data labels for the other series, and we also come highlight the data labels and give them color red, and we go to the other series, which is writing, and we also put data labels and we color them color red. So what does this mean? This shows that the minimum for writing is 27, the minimum for reading is 29, and then the medium for math is 27. Now, although math and the writing have the same minimum, but their quartiles are different. We have the third quartile for math at 77, while the third quartile for writing is at 79. The first quartile for math is 57, and then for writing it is 57.25. Now we can see that there was relative uniform performance amongst the students for these two subjects. But when you compare the two with reading, you find that reading was done slightly better. The median mark is 69. The minimum is 29, the third quartile is 79, and also when you look at the box is a bit raised compared to the box for writing and math, and also the box is a bit smaller. So now in the next lesson, let's try to have a general interpretation for this box plot. How do we interpret box plot? The box plot, first of all, tells us the central tendency of a distribution. When you look at a box, the box has the upper bound, has the lower bound. Then we also have at the bottom what we call a whisker. We have a lower whisker and then the upper whisker. The lower whisker is the minimum, the upper whisker is for the maximum. Now, the smaller the box, the more concentrated the performance is. The closer the mean is to the median, the more uniformly distributed the performance. Then we also have the interquartile range. Now, the interquartile range is actually the difference between the third quartile and the first quartile. So basically, the size of the plot tells us the interquartile range. The bigger the box, the greater the interquartile range. In addition, the box plot also tells us about the outliers. When you see any points that are below the lower whisker or the minimum, those are outliers. And if there was to be a distribution where there are points above the maximum, for example, when it's not about class performance, maybe when it is age distribution, then you find that any points above the maximum are also outliers. Then in addition to spread, then outliers and interquartile range, the box also tells us about the symmetry. A symmetrical box plot with the median line in the center suggests a balanced distribution without significant skewness. So when you have the mean as close as possible to the median, whereby the mean is the gross or the star, and then the median is the line. So the closer they are, the more symmetrical the distribution of the dataset. So that is briefly what the box plot can tell us about the distribution of a given dataset. And now, when you compare the distribution of the scores for writing, the distribution of the scores for reading, and the distribution of the scores for math, then it can actually tell you where more effort is required, both in terms of students and also teachers, to ensure that there is either balanced or there is improved performance across the different subjects, and also trying to see the outlying performances and students for them to be helped and see how the grades can be improved. So that is briefly what we can talk about as far as the box plot is concerned. Let us now quickly look at how we can construct a bar graph, and the process is more or less similar to how we construct a column graph, because the column and the bar graph are one and the same, except to the extent that the bars of a column graph are vertical and the bars of a bar chart are horizontal. So we highlight the data. Let's highlight for the first 20 universities. This is a table that shows the size of the endowment funds for the respective top US universities. We highlight from the 1st to the 20th, which is a Brown University, and from the 1st to the endowment fund in billions of dollars. And then we go to the Insert tab on the ribbon, click Chart Group, we go to All Charts, and then we go to the bar graph, and then let's choose this first one, and we click OK. Let's confirm what our horizontal axis represents by going to the select data, and then our legend entries. Our horizontal axis are the universities, which is OK, and then our legend has data in column C, which is OK, and the series name is the endowment. So we click in that cell and we press OK. So we now confirm that this is the right axis that we're interested in. We click on the grid lines and we delete them. And then we can give a background to our chart by clicking outside of the plot area and right clicking, and we can format chart area. Then we go to fill and line, solid fill, and then we can give our chart a background of choice. We can go to more colors, and then we look for a background of choice and we press OK. And this is precisely our chart. So we can reduce the font of our title from 14 to 12, and then we can expand our plot area. And here we do not need the legend. Probably we can just adjust the horizontal axis by coming to highlight the axis, and then we go to axis options. On the axis options, the bounds, instead of being 0, we can make it 3, and then the maximum can make it 49.5, and we press OK. We can change the number by putting a decimal and also putting the title of the axis. How do we change the number? We highlight the axis and we go to text axis options, and then we move down and we look for number, and then we say what number category are we interested in. Let's say number rather than a general. We can put a separator, we can put one decimal place, and then we click a number of choice and we press OK, and then we can come and bold it, and then we come and go to chart design. We check the axis title and we ensure that our vertical axis has a title, not vertical, where universities are known. Let's go and undo. We delete. We instead look for axis titles, then we go to horizontal, and then we put endowment fund in US dollar billion. Press enter. Let's go and appropriately size our plot area for us to provide for visibility of our horizontal axis. So we come and highlight the plot area, and then we adjust a bit, and we can bold the title of our x-axis. We can unbold the axis, the horizontal axis. We come to home tab and unbold, and that is our bar graph for the endowment fund for the top US universities. Thank you for watching, and I hope that this has been an interesting session on graphs and charts, and I hope that this lesson is going to make out of you a better reporter, a better analyst. Thank you very much. See you in the next lesson.